All right, hello. Welcome, Gustavo. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. Apparently, I'm talking to one of the best baristas and coffee experts in the world, which makes me extremely excited because I have lots to learn. To kind of be able to brew this amazing product to the capacity that it's meant to be. So I'm excited to be here.
Well, thank you, thank you. That's very flattering. I mean, I'm on a Zoom call with one of the greatest racers in the entire world. So, and from what I've learned in just our short time getting to know each other, a man of very many talents, one of which is including coffee. So yeah, I'm excited to brew some coffee together. Not quite coast to coast. I'm kind of in the south. You're there on the west coast, but
yeah, it's far enough to say coast to coast, but
yeah.
it's going to be exciting. It's funny, we've chatted in the past. I'm a big espresso fan. And, you know, I've never really been able to get it right with my Chemex. So today I'm really excited to try this and see, you know, what a true pour over at home is supposed to taste like, as well as kind of how to maximize this espresso and make the most out of these Onyx Persevere beans. And yeah, it'll be fun.
Absolutely. You've released collaboration with Onyx Coffee Lab, a part of your Persevere Collective, which is a larger arching brand, right? Is that right?
Yeah, so actually we're in the midst of final kind of release process with streetwear, hoodies and t-shirts, kind of from some of the textiles and styles that I've just really been a fan of for the last few years. Cool. And I wanted to be able to share that with my audience. And then I'm a big fan of cycling. I've been cycling for about 10 years. I ride with a lot of the Pro Tour riders. And awesome. We're releasing a cycling kit as well. So it's the Persevere Collective. And a lot of that kind of joins with these words from Onyx, you know, never settle for good enough. I'm a big fan of making the most out of everything in life. And I just wanted to be able to share some of my passions again with my audience, which is kind of goes down to three main things. And that's daily living, coffee, and cycling. So we've come together with Onyx, which in my opinion, roasts some of the best coffee in the world. I ran across you guys actually when I was skiing in Utah, and I saw the packaging and immediately was kind of mind blown with just the marketing and the quality of the product. And then of course, once I tried it, the quality speaks for itself, awesome. Which is really nice to see that follow through. And then of course with cycling apparel and streetwear, I just wanted to be able to, you know, if someone likes some of the stuff that I'm wearing or that I'm promoting, they can get it for themselves at, you know, at a realistic price and kind of join that movement. So it's cool.
Absolutely. That's really cool to have this over encompassing. Essentially, you could spend your whole day in Persevere Collective.
Exactly. I mean, I was just like, look, I'm already spending my money on this stuff, so I might as well let other people do the same thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, you really love espresso, right? You've nailed down this coffee for your Persevere Collective that is outstanding on espresso. I've really loved playing with it. Really enjoyed it with milk as well and some smaller milk drinks. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about espresso. I have a recipe that I have that I think you would really enjoy just based on what you've told me about your preferences for espresso, but I'd also really love to see how you're usually pulling your coffee, and maybe I can try how you're pulling your shots and you can try how I'm pulling mine.
Yeah, I have a feeling that yours is going to taste better than mine, but I'm excited to see
I don't know about that. I think you've actually had a little bit more time with the coffee, but everybody.
I have, and it's been such an incredible process. The Onyx team, you guys have been amazing. Basically, the way we started with this, just so people know, it wasn't just a kind of, hey, let's put a cool logo on and make this happen. This has been a couple months in the process, and the original start was that we took a tasting box of about 15 different blends and origins, right, from yep. Onyx's kind of, you know, massive different collection of coffee from all over the world, and kind of narrowed it down to like our two favorites, which really allowed you guys to see what flavor profiles I liked. And also I actually had a coffee tasting, obviously through the pandemic, it was not easy, but kind of in little groups of 3 or 4 baristas and friends, to see their opinions. And we actually kind of chose what the favorite was, which we ended up doing something very similar. Obviously, with a little bit of a different roast profile. I feel like such a nerd here because honestly, I'm not the coffee expert, but with a bit of a different roast profile.
You're not alone. You're looking at a guy who competes making coffee for a living. So if we're gonna compare coffee nerd notes, I think I've still got you beat.
100%. But all I can say is a damn good cup of coffee, and that's the most important.
You've got a streetwear brand, and you drive race cars and cycle for a living. You're a lot cooler than I am. But we can both enjoy the same cup of coffee. Yeah, the flavor notes you chose, really fun. This is a more traditional coffee, which means, we have stuck to a ton of sweetness, a ton of texture, and a ton of like cocoa, vanilla, brown sugar. Again, like I said, really excellent in milk. When I made some just earlier this afternoon, which was for me in Arkansas, probably a little later than I should have been drinking espresso, but it was really nice. I'm dealing with a little espresso machine at home. I've actually gotten really similar results with this La Marzocco as I have with, your standard Breville machines. So this coffee, because it is pretty traditional, it's really forgiving. So you can throw a lot of different things at it in your espresso machine. We're still going to get some really great results. Based on you telling me, spent a lot of time in Italy, cycling, drinking espresso. I've got a slightly more traditional espresso recipe than what we use in the cafe, and even more traditional than like what I usually do. I'm going to pull 18 grams of coffee in my portafilter, and I'm going to extract only 40 mils out, so 40 grams out, which is like about an ounce and a half, and it should take around 28 seconds. So pretty long shot, pretty short shot, really rich in that cocoa, brown sugar, and vanilla.
So this is kind of funny. Then I haven't been too far off of you. Actually, probably a bit too long, and that's good to know. This morning I pulled 18-gram basket as well. Okay. 35 grams is kind of what I've been doing.
Okay, even shorter.
At 28 seconds as well.
28 seconds. So, nice.
So it's more or less quite similar. We're talking within 1 second, more or less, for the weight and the presence, like together with, I've been using oat milk, but the presence in the milk, it just has a really smooth, nice little taste that you can kind of feel through the milk. It's really good. Yeah.
If you're doing 35 grams out, you're drifting into ristretto territory. You like it strong.
Maybe a bit too strong.
Can espresso be too strong though?
I mean, it is rocket fuel, isn't it? It is hilarious. I had a couple friends over yesterday, and he had coffee at 9 a.m. at the house. He texted me at 4 a.m. saying, "Man, I'm still shaking." I'm like, "Then I did it really good."
It happens. I'm gonna pull myself a shot of espresso, and let's just see what happens.
Awesome. I'm gonna let you go, and I'll join in the fun a little bit after I have my machine warmed up here as well.
Sorry, I didn't catch that one.
I said I'm gonna watch you get started, and I'm gonna join you momentarily after and pull something similar. I'm excited. One thing that I'm gonna ask you for a little advice on later on is I at home have a machine with the group head modulation paddle, which is really fun if you know exactly what you're doing. But I'm just stuck to very basic, which is I have it closed off to about 3 bar, where it allows the coffee to form a little bit, and then I just open up the paddle. And then around 28 to 30 grams, I start closing it off to about halfway. But it's worked really well for me so far. But I'm kind of just like, I watched it on YouTube. And the coffee is very good. So
you've stumbled into very classic approach to that. I can tell you a little bit about those options as my shot is pulling. Because that is essentially, like what you're describing is essentially what a commercial machine does. It's going to be about 3.5 bars of pressure for the first 6 or 8 seconds, and then it's going to work its way up to full pressure. And then many commercial machines will ramp down. Not all of them, but many will. And what it is just a really nice way to like settle the aftertaste of your espresso.
Yeah.
let's see how this thing does. Yeah, so my Linea Mini is ramping directly up to 9 bars of pressure. And then it is maintaining that until I shut it off with a very quick ramp down. But yeah, if you're giving it that slow pressure, your longer time should be comparable in extraction to what I'm doing.
Yeah. Oh, I
It's
forgot
actually
to
only
add.
32 seconds, but still in my desired strength.
My dog wants to say hi, sorry.
Your dog wants some espresso too. Yeah, so what is it about espresso? Because obviously it's more than just that it is rocket fuel that makes you involved, interested in, coffee products. What is it about coffee then that has made you want, I guess, your own brand, your own version?
Yeah, so a big part of coffee for me is more than just a drink like anything else, even like a tea, for example, regardless how it's good. You sit at home at the end of the day and you have some tea before you go to sleep. The way I kind of been raised around coffee goes a bit more towards, for example, going on a ride with some friends to a destination for a coffee, where it relates a lot with community for me, which would be more in the terms of going to have some coffee with friends, enjoying the taste of it, but actually sharing that moment in time. So I got into coffee, and honestly, in the beginning, I didn't like coffee. I was like 15, and all I wanted was 300 milliliters of milk and a couple drops of coffee and a lot of vanilla syrup. And over time, that slowly went into double espressos with no milk. So
very classic story then. Training baristas and everything, you kind of learn and share what we call our gateway drinks. So the drink that kind of you were drinking that kind of made you start wanting more coffee, I guess. I'm going to get more coffee flavor in that. I think mine was classic 16-ounce mocha, tons of chocolate. And then over time, it's give me half sweet. And then give me an extra shot of espresso. And then it's okay, let me just get a latte. And then okay, straight espresso.
And I've been very blessed as well, as any major cities, especially here in the US or Tokyo, for example, have a massive kind of hip coffee scene with innovative new modern coffees. And I kind of decided, okay, I'm going to settle on a drink that's quite consistent across the board, so you can start to understand the differences from different coffee beans and still have presence. And for me, that was a flat white, a traditional flat white, because you could kind of see how the barista did with even everything from the milk frothing to just the quantity of milk versus coffee, the temperatures, the crema, everything kind of came together in this package. And actually, there was one specific story. We were in Tokyo for a week before one of my races out there, and we rode fixies. I don't know how I survived because we didn't have brakes and we were riding through Shibuya crossing without stopping, traffic going. It was crazy. But we had these missions. We would ride with the camera strapped on and see how many coffee shops we could get through the day. And we were sleeping at 3 a.m. because we were shaking because we had 8 coffees a day. But it was just this fun adventure, and it was so cool to go from roaster to roaster, see what each bean did. And over time, actually, COVID brought that next step, which was I've always wanted an espresso machine. I'm going to buy kind of a machine of my dreams. And every time I went on a trip, I would actually go to a local roaster or coffee shop, and that's how I found Onyx in the end. And bring back some coffee from that roaster and from different flavor profiles, more acidic coffees, less acidic ones with more cacao and vanilla, and found what I liked, and that's what brought us to this. So it was this long kind of 10-year journey, and I feel I'm just starting, but there is a lot of history behind it.
There's always more to learn. There's always new roasters. I feel I'm finding new roasters all the time. And new coffees, new ways to experience the same coffees. You've been brewing Persevere as several different ways. Probably find that it tastes a little bit different, depending on what you do to it. This is a much stronger shot than I traditionally pull myself at home. I'm usually at 50, 55, maybe even 60 milliliters out with the same
Wow.
amount. I like it to be really delicate. I like really florals. This so heavy. Sits on
It
your
is.
tongue. But the
Yeah.
sweetness is almost overwhelming. Like
that was the big thing for me. It was like when I pulled the first kind of shots with something more similar to this, I obviously do more of this kind of short, like long but small shot, and I'm always kind of goofy, and I'm like, I love the crema, like when you can almost eat this coffee with a spoon kind of thing. But there is an understanding that, you know, for myself personally, if I drink espresso only, I actually do usually go a little bit coarser with the grind. And when I do it with milk, I like that kind of strong punchy flavor to punch through the milk.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
and it really, like, if you can, I mean, to a lot of expert baristas, this is easy work, but for the home barista, when you can finally get kind of the frothing perfect on the milk together with like a nice thick rich espresso, you get such a creamy, like, good taste. And it's got several different points of kind of impact, because you have like an explosion of flavors. So it's really cool.